Let's talk about emotional eating. If this is a struggle for you, then this is for you. And if this is not a struggle for you, maybe, right? I know very few people who truly have zero issue with emotional eating. So let's dig into this a little bit. What I want to give you first is a little bit of why this happens, and a way to think about it, and then we'll talk about some hacks, some ways of addressing this, kind of from like the least awesome to the most awesome solution for this. So, first of all, if this is something you're struggling with and you ever want to have a one-on-one, just drop me a message, just send me a PM, and I'll reach out and we'll talk and we'll see what we can do, because for each of us, emotional eating is sometimes a really emotional thing, and if you would rather have a one-on-one conversation, then let's do that. But let's get into this. So does emotional eating happen, right? It is not simply a, like, you saw the potato chips and you really wanted the potato chips or chocolate, whether you're a sweet or a savory person. It's that when we emotionally eat, we are literally trying to change the way that we feel. And that seems so, like, obvious, right? And if you got in a fight with a spouse or a coworker or a client, whatever, right? If you're just feeling really bad about yourself, then emotional eating is your way of changing how you feel in that moment to feel better. And as we all know, that feeling doesn't last. The other reason that some of us will emotionally eat is because we're actually feeling good and we want to keep that feeling going. So it's helpful here to actually step back and look at this from a physiological level, which is, and if you've paid attention to me in the past, like you've got this idea, but there's two sides of the autonomic nervous system, the things that happen automatically in our body. There's the sympathetic side and the parasympathetic side. Sympathetic is fight or flight. Parasympathetic is rest and digest, or feed and breed. And sympathetic or parasympathetic is where we recover, and sympathetic is where we take action. And very often when we start to feel really bad, we are going over towards the freeze side of the parasympathetic. It's a negative, like, non-action thing. Can look like depression, can just look like sadness or like feeling bad. And we often want to get to feeling better, and that means for our body that we're going to push over towards the sympathetic side. We're going to go back towards action. And if we're feeling active, then when we're happy, the problem with feeling really happy, as a lot of us know, is that the next thing that comes is often feeling not happy, right? And so we can actually use that same eating as a way of, like, you're feeling really good, it's a celebration, you have a whole bunch of cake. Part of what we're trying to do there is stay in that sympathetic side. We're trying to stay over on this side towards the action side. So sympathetic and parasympathetic, and emotional eating is always a drive towards the sympathetic side. What kind of foods do we go to when we emotionally eat? Well, again, like chocolate and chips or alcohol sometimes. And all of these are actually going to push us towards the sympathetic side. What are the foods that keep us neutral or push us to the parasympathetic? Well, this is like lean protein and salads and fats. None of us, like, I don't know anyone who's like, ice cream, right? Ice cream is still a lot of sugar, but like, none of us is like, man, I'm feeling really emotional right now, I'm going to go and have a whole bunch of like plain Greek high-fat yogurt, right? Like, we just don't do that. Or like, I'm going to go eat some like chicken and broccoli. No, it's not what we do. Emotional eating is always going to be these foods that push us to sympathetic. That's really important, because now we can like start to dig into why this is so hard to shift. Well, part of it is that your brain, your central nervous system, likes the sympathetic side. It views that as being positive, and because it is where we take action, and it is where we get to feeling better, and not just like you emotionally feeling better or me emotionally feeling better, but it's also where the brain chemicals start to shift, and we can get some of those happy chemicals. Problem is they don't last, because it was an artificial method of getting there. So emotional eating is partially so hard to do because you are wired internally to have a positive response to it. Right? Again, like, imagine if you had a positive response to eating lean protein, like the fat loss industry would be out of a job. But that's not the case, because this stuff happens. But the solution isn't just like stop eating chips and eat more protein, because it's really hard to do. And this is why. Is because we are wired towards these things. We are wired towards these. If we go back, thousands or, hundreds of thousands of years to early humans, whenever that was on the timeline, you know, we had to sustenance, we had to hunt, and we had to forage. And like one way of thinking about this was foraging was often about having enough energy to go on the hunt. And so like berries and things are starchy, they're sugary. They'll give a human the energy to go on the hunt, to go kill the wildebeest and take it down and carve it, and then to take a nap for a while because of that post Thanksgiving high protein parasympathetic like relaxation state. And so sugars can be really good, but they're good within context. So part of the reason why this is so hard is because we're just wired to do it. It's also hard to fix emotional eating because you probably make this mistake. I know I did for a long time. You think that willpower is the problem, right? If I could just have enough willpower and discipline, I'd be fine. Well, it's true, but it would be like Pavlov's dogs deciding, you know what, fuck this. I'm done. I'm done salivating at the bell, right? Didn't happen because the dog's system was set up to have that response. And in a way, like we don't have more control than Pavlov's dogs did. We just have more awareness of it in a way. And so the likelihood of you changing that behavior without changing some things in the environment is really low just by deciding to do it, right? You're going to have about as much luck as Pavlov's dogs did. Those of us who don't have emotional eating problems or who don't struggle with emotional eating, it's not because we've decided we have the willpower. We've actually hacked some stuff. We've changed some stuff around. The third reason why this is so hard to fix or hard to address or change for ourselves is because society accepts it, right? Because we actually have a name for it, emotional eating. I can create a post on Facebook that's like, I'm going to talk about emotional eating, and you guys know what I'm talking about. If you're at dinner with some friends and you're like, man, it's been a really rough day. I'm going to eat a bunch of stuff. I'm going to eat a whole bunch of food, or I'm having ice cream for dessert. Your friends, your family, your coworkers are all going to go, oh yeah, emotional eating. That makes sense, right? And like, they'll understand that maybe you want to change that habit, but it is an accepted concept, which is really problematic because you have this neurology that says like, hey, you should probably have that chocolate. You have friends who are saying, oh, it's totally cool to have the chocolate, which means that like, that it's just, and then it's just you trying to change the situation. That's really, really hard, as we've already discussed. So now let's get into, hey Janelle, what's up, kid? Let's get into point number 3. How do we start to change this? And I'm going to give you a spectrum of ideas, right? And there's none of these are bad ideas, because if you can take control, if you can start to make shifts, then you are breaking the cycle, you're breaking this habit, and it's really good. But I'm gonna finish with like the ultimate answer to this problem, like the ultimate solution to emotional eating. But let's start a little bit with some of the easier ones. The easiest thing in the world would honestly be to eliminate all of those foods from your house, right? In a moment that you're feeling pretty good, you're feeling pretty balanced, go through your pantry, go through all the hidden cupboards and shit. My wife usually got like chocolate or gummy bears hidden somewhere in the house. Luckily, I usually don't know where they are, because if I did, they'd be gone. But the thing to do is like go through your pantry and get rid of that shit, right? Like, and that means like getting rid of anything that is easy to consume. So like sugary treats. If you're a starchy person, get rid of the starches, get rid of like the chips and things. And because none of these are doing you any good anyway, right? If there's a moment that you really want it, that you like, that there's a justification for it, go out and get it, and then don't bring it home. This is my main solution, because I fully believe that like it is a waste of it's a waste of cardboard for Ben and Jerry's containers to have lids. Like, why? Peel it back, it's gone, like, right? It doesn't go back in the freezer. That's just not acceptable. It's easier to do that, like, if you don't bring it home, then, you know, you got a little bit of discipline there, you got a little bit of control. But clear these things out of your house. And then that also means to clear out even the things that you might use to change how you're feeling. Like, if you're, like, make them harder to do. Like, rice and starches will all push us towards the sympathetic side. They'll all kind of work in the same way that chocolate will. It won't work as fast. But like if you have to go and cook rice or bake potatoes in order to have those things, that makes it actually really easy to be like, I really want it right now. I don't want to wait 20 minutes for rice to cook, so I guess I'm not going to do it. So one option, eliminate that stuff. Get it out of the house. Okay. Option number 2 is actually just to break the habit. When you realize that you are likely to go for something, right? You had an event that just happened, you're trying to change the way you feel, you go to the pantry, you open the door, like you have that, hopefully you can generate that moment of awareness for yourself. That's when you can make a decision. And rather than saying, I'm not gonna eat chocolate, decide that you're gonna go do something else. Take 10 breaths, do 5 burpees, do 20 air squats, do a few push-ups, like go for a walk. Do something else active. And rather than telling yourself that you're not eating the chips, tell yourself, I am going to blank. And make it as a positive, right? The brain responds better to the positive. The brain kind of doesn't see the no in front of the thing or the I'm not going to. All it sees is like when you say, I'm not gonna eat the chocolate chips, your brain's like, chocolate chips, great idea. So instead, reframe it towards the other thing, okay? Similar to that idea, third option, replace what you're gonna eat with veggies. And I actually have a challenge for you if you wanna take this one on. When you, next time, open the pantry and you're like, I feel like eating something because I'm bored, right? Again, if you're emotional eating because you're bored, it's the same thing. You're just trying to generate some energy in the body. So here's my challenge for you. When you go and open your pantry and you're like, I'm not hungry, I'm just bored, you must eat 1 cup of veggies. Like it's an option, eat a cup of veggies. No, do it. Force yourself to do it. For me, like you could make a small salad with a whole bunch of like oil on it and some cheese, awesome. But you could also simply like open a jar of sauerkraut and like force yourself to eat like 5 bites. Don't get something that you don't like, but like create a pattern here where you're going to move from the emotional eating to something that is going to be a better choice and is actually not going to serve. It's not going to give you the fix. It's not going to give you that feeling that you were looking for, which is actually great because we're trying to break that response of I want it, therefore I'm going to change how I feel. So challenge for you again, this is actually like the mid-range idea, but this is kind of the hardest one. You must, if you go looking for the food, you must follow it up with 1 cup of veggies of some sort. Can be a salad, can be kimchi, sauerkraut, just eat a whole bunch of carrots, whatever. 1 cup every time. Oh, veggie intake is gonna soar. Okay, third thing, you could also go and replace that with healthy fats. One of the reasons that some of us might emotionally eat is that we're actually in a calorie deficit, in an extreme calorie deficit, and we haven't been we've ignored hunger signals for so long that we no longer see them very, very, very well. This is totally my story. Like, in the last decade, I've probably been hungry like a good 10 times. Like, hunger is just not a sensation that I get, so I'm trying to re-engage with this. But one of the things that could mean is that I will go towards cake, not because it's actually the emotional piece, but it's because because my body is actually giving me a signal that there is a need for some more calories in the course of a day. So some healthy fats, avocado, some cheese, full fat Greek yogurt, like these can work really well. And you could even put them in as the response to that emotional eating drive. So another thing is to just go ahead and eat the fucking thing, right? Eat the chocolate, eat the whatever. But then, right, remember this, the base idea, all those foods that we use for the emotional eating are gonna push us towards the sympathetic side of the nervous system. What does the sympathetic side do? It takes action, it drives behavior, it drives movement, right? Think of like the sugar high that we get and then the crash afterwards. Well, part of the reason that we crash is because we've got all this energy in the system that we haven't used. And if we use it, then we'll actually absorb it as we should into the cells. We don't get the insulin spike and the drop, and the system works a lot more appropriately. So if you really, really want that piece of chocolate or you really want that handful of chips, then eat it and go immediately to work. Don't wait 5 minutes, don't wait 10 minutes, because if you do, you're gonna crash. You're gonna have that burnout. But like eat the piece of chocolate and then do 50 air squats or do 10 burpees or go sprint down the block and walk back. Do something, right? You just put some energy on board. You just put this like nitro jet fuel into your system. Go and use it. Which also means that if you are looking to power your workouts for a little bit more oomph, like this is the idea of a pre-workout, right? Caffeine really works the same way. use that energy to go do something, take action with that energy just put on board. Okay, so yeah, the last thing I'm going to give you, this is kind of like the winner. If you are emotionally eating, you are driving towards, or you are attempting to change how you feel about something. Okay, let me give you an example of this. I have had days where I have worked from like 6 a.m. until 9 p.m. in my gym or on my business. And I've like been up coaching classes at 6 a.m. I'd like maybe have a 45-minute or 60-minute window to train during the day. Like I'll be in my gym all day long. My gym's got big south-facing windows, so we get a ton of light. It's really warm. It's a little bit overstimulating. I'll take my computer, I'll try to do some work, and like generally those days, and they generally fall in the early in the week, so like Monday, Tuesday, and so like there'll be a Monday where I'm like 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. and I get home and I have to be back in the gym at 6 a.m. on Tuesday. Oh, I'm fixing it. Don't worry about me. Like it's no longer the case, but this has happened in the past. I've eaten not terribly much and not all that well during the day. I've probably been overstimulated on caffeine during the day. And I'm like leaving the gym at 9 o'clock and I'm getting home at 9:10, 9:15. I'm going to eat some dinner and then I'm going to try to like go to sleep. Okay. So it's been a day, right? I'm like tired. I'm fatigued, but I need to eat. What's appealing to me in that moment? I'll tell you, it ain't chicken and broccoli. It's not anything good. Like I want some chocolate. I want some bread. I'd really love some whiskey or some wine. If I had chips, I'd be like down in it. If there's popcorn in the house, I'm eating it. Oh, right? So in that instance, I am eating to solve a problem. I'm eating to change how I feel. I feel fatigued. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling overstimulated from the day, and I actually want to change how I feel. Okay, so I could eat those things. What's the impact of that? Well, I'm not going to sleep very well. I know that from experience. I know that from theory. I'm not going to sleep well. So instead, what's the better solution? Well, it's applying a version of these things, right? It is putting a little bit more food in during the day, putting in some healthy fats during the day, and then when I get home, it's and veggies during the day too. And then when I get home, it's some protein, which is going to help kick me to parasympathetic. It'll probably knock me out. Awesome, I need to go to sleep anyway. I only have 9 hours until I have to be back at the gym. But what I don't do is try to change the way that I feel. But here is the ultimate answer: change the situation, right? And in terms of me and like having a business that I run, and I do most of the coaching and I do most of the training, and I do all the marketing, I do all the business development. So for me, like to change that situation is really, really hard. So what can I do? Well, I can start to build a team. I have a couple of coaches that work for me. I can maybe have one of them coaching the 6 a.m. class on a Monday, or the 6 a.m. class on the Tuesday, or the 9 a.m. class on Monday night, or the 8 p.m. class on Monday night. So I can start to reduce my time. I can play with my schedule a little bit. In other words, I have two choices. One choice is to change how I feel about the situation. I'm really tired, I'm going to change how I feel. The other solution, number two, is to change the situation. Changing the situation for me means I adjust my schedule. I do the hard work of moving some of my Monday clients to Thursday when I have a little bit more free time. Or I could just I could just sleep at the gym, I guess, right? It would kind of solve it too. Here's the thing with emotional eating. Emotional eating is our desire to change how we feel about the world, but it does not encourage us to change the world. If you just got in a fight with your spouse and you guys have something you have to work through and you are now in the kitchen eating cake, well, you're changing how you feel, but you haven't changed the situation. You haven't fixed the problem. And between any two spouses, God only knows what the problem is. Like it could all be different and the solution might be different things, but you're changing how you feel about it rather than changing the situation or addressing the problem. Like we can think of like there's a logic to be applied here to antidepressants as well, which is that like the role of an antidepressant is to change how we feel. But if we've got like a life that we don't like and we're using antidepressants to change how we feel about the life we don't like, the antidepressant is going to fix the feeling, but it's not going to change the situation. And so my challenge for you is this: when you realize you're emotional eating, use the other strategies. Get rid of the food that's in the house that you go to. Break the habit. Do something else. Like put in eat some fat instead. Eat some veggies instead. Be sure that you're eating enough through the day and it's not actually just hunger showing up. And but then at the end of the day, what you've got to do is change the thing you're emotionally reacting to, right? Figure out another way to do that. This whole concept, this topic for today came up because of an email with one of my clients who basically said, I need some strategies for dealing with emotional eating. And I'm like, I got you covered. And it was like one of the things that she deals with is relationship with her daughter, right? And the relationship is fine, but her daughter's having a hard time right now. I think her daughter's really social, misses being in school given the pandemic. And so my client gets emotionally wound up because her daughter is emotionally wound up because she's very empathetic and is very connected to her daughter, which is great, right? So the problem there isn't the daughter. The problem, I say that really lovingly. The problem there is how her daughter is responding to the situation. And then the emotional eating is how my client is responding to how her daughter is responding to the situation, right? So what's the problem? What's the root here? Well, it's how her daughter is responding to the situation. So how can my client do better by her daughter? Because that's really the solution, right? I don't know that relationship very well. I don't know her daughter. I've maybe met her once or twice. But the solution is probably bond with daughter, make daughter do some burpees, take daughter for a walk, right? Because the daughter is also trying to fix how she feels about a situation. And she's young. She doesn't have a ton of tools to do that. So that's where my client's opportunity comes in to do that with her. So maybe it is the two of them doing a workout together or doing some yoga or going for a walk or doing some deep belly breathing, or playing a game, right? There's some sort of the solution probably lies in that connection. That was a tangent. I just wanted you guys to know where this came from. So in summary, right? Emotional eating, it happens because you are wired for it to happen. And until you change the situation, it is going to keep happening. And there will always be those emotional triggers that come up for all of us. I don't know anyone who is free of them. So what we want to do is first limit the emotional triggers where we can by changing the situations. And then secondly, change what's available. Make it easier for yourself to do the right thing by not having those triggered foods in the house. And then secondly, break your habit so that when you start going to that trigger, you can make a different decision. And then I give you kind of my other option too, which is use those things as energy. Use those things as kind of triggers for yourself to take action. And the extreme version of this is actually what I do a lot of times. I keep a chocolate bar and a bottle of chocolate milk in the house, and I generally keep one at the gym. I keep that same at the gym too. And they're off limits unless I'm going to go do a workout. So if I'm like later today I'm going to go train, I'll probably have a couple ounces of chocolate, probably have a couple hundred calories, maybe 200 calories worth of chocolate. And it's good chocolate. It's like chocolate with hazelnuts, milk. It's like milk chocolate with hazelnuts, a little bit too sweet for me usually, but for getting me into the mode, into that sympathetic fight state to go and kill a workout. And the workout today, I'm going to need to kill it because it's going to be a hard one. That works really well for me. So change the situation, break the habits, but then also know that it's okay to use those foods as a fuel to go take strong action, into a hard workout. I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. Again, if I can help, if there's questions, if you want to have a one-on-one conversation, drop a message below, drop a comment below, shoot me a message. Maybe it's obvious, I love this stuff. And I think when we can understand how the nervous system works and why the nervous system is such a strong driver towards behavior, we can then start to fix stuff. You are not going to overcome emotional eating by willpower. Your emotions are stronger than your rational brain. So what we have to do is use the rational brain to start changing what's available, to start changing the situation, so that when emotions take over, if the emotion has to cook rice and has to wait 15 minutes for that fix to do the emotional eating of rice, emotions don't last that long, right? Unless we choose to have them. They tend to run out in about 90 seconds if we sit with them. So there's your ideas. If I can help, let me know. I'd love to talk to you. Thanks, guys, for tuning in, and thanks for hanging out for one that was a little bit longer than I intended today. I hope it was useful. Have a wonderful Tuesday, and I will see you soon.